For a long time, it seemed like global power really just came from one or two places. But that's changing, and it's changing fast. So today, we're going to dive into the new centers of power that are completely rewriting the rules for the 21st century. And that brings us to a really fundamental question for our time. Is the era of a single superpower actually over? I mean, for a while there, after the Cold War, the world was pretty much defined by one dominant force. But the ground is shifting under our feet. So let's take a look at what this new multipolar world is starting to look like. You see, after the Cold War's two-player game ended, it became pretty clear that other centers of political and economic power were popping up. These new hubs of influence started to limit America's dominance, and that created a much more complex and, frankly, more interesting global stage. Okay, our first case study is the European Union. Now, this is a radical idea. It was born from the absolute devastation of World War II, and it's built on the belief that historic rivals could actually come together to build something new, peaceful, and incredibly powerful. The European Union didn't just appear out of thin air, not at all. Its creation was this very deliberate, step-by-step process. It started with something really practical, back in 1951, pooling coal and steel. That then grew into a bigger economic community, and then, boom, in 1992, it takes this huge leap to become a political union. By 2002, they even had a shared currency, the euro. It was a slow, steady march from just economic cooperation to real political power. So where does the EU's influence come from? Well, it's hitting on all cylinders at once. Economically, it's an absolute powerhouse, with a GDP that's right up there with the world's biggest economies. Politically, through members like France, it has a permanent seat on the super powerful UN Security Council. And while its go-to move is diplomacy, you can't forget that its combined military forces are the second largest in the world. Okay, so that's the EU model. Now, let's flip the script and look at a completely different approach. We're heading to Southeast Asia to talk about ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. They built their influence on a totally different foundation: cooperation, not integration. At the very heart of this organization is something called the ASEAN Way. It's a philosophy that's all about being informal, working together, and avoiding confrontation. Unlike the EU, the absolute core principle here is respecting each member's national sovereignty above absolutely everything else. And this side-by-side really just lays it all out. The EU created these supranational institutions, think of the European Parliament, that actually have authority over member nations. ASEAN went the complete opposite way. Its core belief is non-interference. That means no single currency, no binding foreign policy. It's all about reaching a consensus, not having some authority at the top calling the shots. ASEAN got started way back in 1967 with a focus on growing their economies, and boy, have they succeeded. It's now one of the world's fastest-growing economic regions, but their influence now goes way beyond that, into security and culture, making it this critical diplomatic hub where global powers come to engage on all the key issues in Asia. All right, now we turn to a story that has had a truly dramatic, world-changing impact: the rise of China as an economic superpower. You know, to really understand China's incredible rise, you have to know where it started. After the 1949 revolution, its economy was basically a copy of the Soviet model. It was isolated, completely state-controlled, and totally cut off from global markets. They were trying to build up heavy industry from what was mostly an agricultural base. And then came the pivot, the game changer. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping announced this radical shift with the open door policy. The whole goal was to break China's isolation and just generate way higher productivity by bringing in capital and technology from other countries. This was the moment the modern Chinese economy was born. Now, what's so important here is that China totally avoided the shock therapy approach you saw in some other places, that rapid, all-at-once privatization. Instead, they did it their own way, a gradual, controlled approach. It started with diplomacy, reestablishing ties with the US. Then they reformed agriculture, created these special economic zones to sort of test out foreign investment. And finally, in 2001, they joined the World Trade Organization to plug into the global economy for real. And what's the result of all that? Just look at this number: 2040. That's the year China is projected to actually surpass the US as the world's largest economy. It represents one of the most rapid, massive economic transformations in all of human history. Just incredible. So we've just seen three very different models of rising power. But the thing is, the EU, ASEAN, and China, they aren't the only new players on the field. This whole shift towards a multipolar world is happening all over the globe. We also have to look at established economic powerhouses like Japan, a global leader in tech and the world's third largest economy. And right next door, you've got South Korea, whose own Miracle on the Han River transformed it into a major economic and, these days, a huge cultural force. These nations are also absolutely key players in this new global landscape. Which leaves us with this final thought. We're moving from a world with one clear center of gravity to one with many. You've got the EU with its model of deep integration. You've got ASEAN with its focus on consensus. And you've got China with its state-led economic might. As these and other powers keep rising, the big question is, how will their different values and their different models of influence end up shaping the world of tomorrow?